It's preparing to live stream the meeting. It'll be just a second. I'm going to separate this so I can see what's happening on both in case we have a problem. All right, so this says the meeting is now streaming live. Hello, everybody. It looks like we are live now. I'm Kyler. For those of you who don't know me, I'm the youth and young adult pastor here at Walnut Hill, and I'm excited for our next young professionals gathering. It's going to be really, really good to get to spend a little time talking to one of our own young adults, Josh Stanley, today. And so, hi, Josh. It's good to see you.
Hello, Kyler. How are you?
I'm doing well. And these gatherings have been good places to really connect with each other and get a chance to really talk about what God is doing and talk a little bit about what it is that we see, where it is that we see him active, even in the midst of Corona. We've had some really good discussions already. If you want to go back on our YouTube channel and check some of those out. But I also want to make sure that today, man, a lot of us are talking about regathering. The church, Walnut Hill, is regathering in person some as we come through August and September, of course, with some different rules, of course, with some different things going on. But we're regathering and it's good. And we want to talk a little bit about what that looks like here as we talk to Josh too, maybe some of the new normal type of things that he's seeing as a young professional. And so thanks, Josh, for being willing to join us.
Anytime.
Even as we talk about this, I'm gathering from here in New Hampshire at a Panera Bread because I was able to meet in person with some other youth pastors and young adult pastors today. And Panera Bread is open, and that's a little different than it was a couple of months ago when we were doing these live streams first. Josh, your work stayed pretty tight the whole time. Let's first start with an introduction. Can you tell us maybe family life? Who are you? Who's your wife that I know you have? And then there's this younger Stanley. So tell us a little bit about who you are.
My name is Josh Stanley. I'm 30 years old. I was born and raised in Danbury, Connecticut. I married Eliza Shaker, who is now Stanley. And we just had our first child, Olivia Stanley, who is almost 6 months old.
Yeah. Yes. And if she graces our presence tonight so that we can, like on the screen, it will completely distract from everything we're saying because she's super cute. And anytime we see her on a screen, nobody can talk about anything else.
Correct. But she was a little cranky, so we had to put her to bed.
I get a little cranky sometimes too. People should put me to bed, but that's okay. That's all right. So as we walk through this, you are on here because not only are you part of the young adults at Walnut Hill, you and Eliza are both on our young adult steering team, but you are a young professional. So where do you live out this whole professional thing? What's your work?
So I am a foreman for an asphalt paving company, which is actually our family business, which I've been working for since I was about 14 years old. As soon as I started high school, my father basically said the summers are his, and he made us work every summer, which was great. It was a great way to earn a little paycheck, but it was also great to get work experience around like real men. And it's molded and shaped me into the person I am today. I'm very grateful for the opportunity that our family business has allowed myself to have.
I'm sure there were some triple digit days where you didn't feel as grateful when you were 16.
Oh yeah.
But overall, it's great to see how that does mold you and shape you. And now you're in a position where you get to be a part of running this business.
Yes.
And you get to be involved in what that looks like. And so just from your perspective, in the business that you run, how did, when we went through this shutdown and we went through quarantine and all of that, how did that affect your business?
I think the one thing that affected us most was the uncertainty of the work that was coming through the pipeline. We were very lucky to have contracts that overflowed from 2019. And our governor actually made paving essential very early in the shutdown. And he did that because One, I believe it's because it was outside, but two, because the traffic during the pandemic
Yeah.
was almost shut, like almost none, which was allowed us to work a lot quicker, a lot smoother, and a lot safer uh, throughout the shutdown. Um, I tell a lot of people I've never felt so safe working in the road, other than that particular time. Granted, we did have to wear masks.
Yeah.
We still are wearing masks, and we did have to disinfect often and regular. So those things, it was scary, but nobody that we worked with had any underlying issues. And so far, we've been very careful, and no one in our company has gotten sick.
Uh, a couple things you mentioned there that I want to dive in on a little bit deeper. You said that you had to make some adjustments, disinfecting and masks and that kind of thing. A lot of the people who are listening in on this or will watch a video later are people whose workplaces may just be reopening or may have been reopened a little less time than yours has because you continued through this time period.
Mhm.
And one of the fears is that these adjustments will be really difficult to walk through. And there are ways that they are. How has that played out for you? Have your employees and the people around you, has it worked well to walk through the adjustments you've had to make? Have there been challenges there? Talk to us a little about that.
I think they have worked well, and I think a lot of the reason they've worked well is because everyone that works for us has a family to go home to, and they understand that they don't want to be the one to bring it home. They have to work every day to make a living and feed their families. So when it comes to something where it's like either we work or we stay home, or that we work and do these things or we stay home, most often people are going to choose to work and obey the restrictions and the regulations that you have to obey.
Mhm.
Um, so that's one of the main things, is that everyone was gung ho to work,
Right.
um, and that allowed us to keep that rhythm and that momentum, without really slowing down.
Well, and allow me to kind of put the church hat, youth pastor, young adult hat on here. People are gung ho to meet together.
Yes,
Uh,
as am
so
I.
so like, hey, let's not mess this up, people. Let's do this the
Yeah,
best we can so that we
yeah,
can get back to worshiping together
right,
in ways that will be forever adjusted by our experience to this, because
right.
we've learned so much during a process like this.
Hmm.
But man, being back together is good, and it's worth doing what we need to do for it. And so I'm
Yeah,
super excited for that. And I loved that there was some why in that too, right? You said people have families and they have
yeah,
loved ones and they need the work and they want to
yeah.
care for those families, and that's huge.
Hmm.
Looking at families, you talked a little bit in your first response about uncertainty too.
Hmm.
That uncertainty was one of the challenges, and you saw provision in the midst of that uncertainty. But here you are,
Hmm.
a young husband and young dad, as this is coming through, um, and you hit some uncertainty. Can you talk a little bit about how that impacted you and kind of what that meant, maybe even from a faith perspective for you?
It was the uncertainty kind of gives you a little stress. I have bills now. I have a family to take care of. I have, as soon as my daughter was really conceived, as soon as I found out that we were pregnant, you have that moment where you're like, I'm responsible for a human. So the uncertainty of whether we're going to work, whether there's going to be work, because paving is it, it it goes back and forth.
Yeah.
People need it, people don't need it. It's not like toilet paper, where everyone needed that.
There
Um,
wasn't a paving shortage.
there was not a paving
Okay.
shortage. No, no, no. Like I said, we were very lucky to continue to work through the pandemic, and continue to work still to this day. But we have noticed that a lot of those contracts, that were set in stone have backed out due to
Mm.
the uncertainty of what they're going through.
Yeah.
So the domino effect, went all the way from the customer to the employer down to me and my wife. Um, and it's put on some stress. And then also when you take out, going to church every Sunday, I look forward to going to church every Sunday. That's something, I dress in work jeans covered in tar and yellow high vis vests every day. I like dressing up, putting my ring on Sunday, combing my hair, and going to church with my family. That's something I've always loved to do ever since I was a kid. And now not being able to, gather really affected me personally. I started to not really be as holy as I could. Even through the young professional us gathering, even that, you felt the slowdown of that
Yeah.
group. And I'm really looking forward to getting back to where we were. Um,
Mm.
and I just can't wait.
Yeah, well, and that's one of the things that I appreciate about the slowdown in this time is that it gives an opportunity for reset
Right.
and in all areas of life to say, okay, so what do I miss? What was important? What are the things that we want to really not take for granted as
Mm,
we move back? And
absolutely.
so thanks for sharing that. I appreciate that. Looking back at the business side of things, what are some things that have changed in the way that you run your business through this?
Mhm.
And then I'll just give you a heads up. I'm also going to ask, as people start to look for jobs, has this shifted the way you think about hiring at all, or filling out your workforce? What are you looking for differently now than maybe
Yeah.
you were before we had to walk through something like this?
Can you just repeat the first part of that question?
So, what have you changed about how you do business now? Like,
Right.
what adjustments have you had to make to be to deal with the uncertainty,
Mhm.
to walk through this well, to just what's shifted in the way you operate?
Mhm.
And then the second part of it is how have you shifted in your decision making process when you're deciding who to bring it on as part of the team?
Right. Well, I think the main thing is, the customer service. Um, as a small family business, we've always had great customer service, but now it's like, everyone's competing. There is work out there, but now you really have to go out and get it. You really have to
Mm,
return the phone calls. You really have to make sure you're up on your emails, and you have to make sure the quality of the work that you're putting out is almost perfect.
yeah.
We do a lot of road work, and you don't realize it prior to the shutdown. But people don't really bother you when you're paving and in a normal, time frame. But now everyone is home. So every person comes out and they want to know what you're doing, what's the schedule, can
Mhm.
I leave, can I not leave? And you have to be as cordial as possible with these people because they are home and they have to leave and they have to come back. So that's one thing that we really tried to up was
Yeah.
the customer service and the quality,
Mm,
because whenever the economy takes a dip, you really have to compete for that customer.
yeah, that's great.
um, and then when it comes to hiring, our views really haven't changed. We really just look for people that are very hardworking, someone that doesn't mind getting dirty. um, I'm trying to think of the best way to put it. An individual that is willing to show up every day on time and give 100%. Um, and you don't have to have talent, you don't have to have skill. Um, we are a company where we hire a laborer and we start them on the bottom and they work their way up the ladder, and we promote out of necessity. So if somebody doesn't show up one day, you're going to take that person's position, you're going to move up, like almost like the military. When somebody falls, the next person carries the flag. So we look for individuals that want to learn the business, all the way through. And our our mindset really hasn't changed in hiring. We were very fortunate this year to hire five more individuals. So during an economic downturn, that's very rare. But we felt like the what we had coming, we wanted to be prepared for. So we took the hit when it came to paying extra salaries, and maybe we're not going to make as much money, but when this stuff goes away, we're going to be ready, and we're going to have individuals who are trained, and they're being trained at a little slower pace than normal, which is good. Um, and obviously with paving and the heat, it gets very difficult.
Yeah.
So when you're working at a slower pace, it makes for a greenhorn. It makes it a lot easier for them to learn and
No,
know.
that's good. That's good. And I think it's helpful that the same types of things that you would look for in an employee before are what you're looking for now.
Yeah.
I think there's maybe a fear on the part of people who are looking for jobs that they have to have the perfect interview in the perfect spot because there's so much more competition right now.
Yeah.
Is there more competition when you're looking to hire people? Uh, how's that played out?
So I really can't speak on that because we put out an advertisement for hiring prior to the
Okay,
pandemic.
so you were doing that
So
beforehand.
we were doing it before, and we got a huge response. We probably had 50 applicants, and we picked 5 guys. So I mean, that's a very slow or very small percentage of people that applied.
Yeah. Well, but I think that one of the things you said earlier when you're thinking through things for your company is helpful in this process, though. You talked about uncertainty.
Mm,
If I'm looking to be hired,
hmm.
and I know that businesses have things that are full of uncertainty,
Yeah,
I would want to be reliable. And you talked
sure.
about that a little bit. You talked about someone who you can trust will show up and give it all every
Yeah,
day.
right, correct.
And so that's become a hugely
Hmm.
important skill is to be available and willing and to be dedicated to what you're doing.
Yeah.
And so I appreciated that when you talked about the type of people that you were looking at hiring. One other thing that I've appreciated about how you all run your business is that you've really taken the effort may be the wrong term, but you have chosen to jump in and say, you know what, social media is going to matter to us. And I
Hmm.
don't know that everybody would say, hey, paving company, they better have a great social media presence. Like
Yeah.
it's not the spot where you would think that's the case. But can you talk a little bit about the importance of social media for your company?
Yeah. So when I was younger, probably about 18, 19, and I was a freshman in college, I was big into social media personally, as most teenagers are. And I went to school with the idea that I was going to work for the family business. I
Right.
didn't just go to school to get a degree and look for a job. I went with a focus that I was going to one day take over the family business.
Mhm.
That being said, I saw the opportunity to make a business Facebook page, which was like a
Okay.
new thing at the time. So we made it like as soon as that happened, we made a business Facebook page. It was very small, it grew very slowly. But it started as a portfolio for our work. And people would say, "Oh, do you have a reference, or do you have this, or do you have that?" And I just say, "Oh, do you have Facebook?" And they say, "Yes." And I said, "Well, go to our Facebook page."
Mhm.
And that's how it started. And then it evolved into more pictures. Actually, I can't take credit for it. I have to give credit to my younger brother Matt, who has been very savvy with the different social media forms. And then it grew into professional photos and videos, and kind of looking at it strategically on how the algorithms work on each
Mhm.
site, and then pushing towards those algorithms to get the views and the hits.
Yeah.
Um,
So can you describe kind of the difference that's made for your company?
but it's actually been quite huge, because we started early. That gave us a little bit of a head start on other companies. So when go on social media, and if you're a new uh, contractor, we're not really a residential business anymore. We're more commercial. So we deal
Right.
with other commercial businesses. When they type in paving, just to see what's out there, or they come across one of our shiny red trucks,
Mhm.
they say, "Hey, who are these guys?" And then they see we're nearby, and then they
Right.
contact us for work. And this has actually been one of the first years where we've gained a lot of work from it. We worked in Yonkers today, and that job came directly from an Instagram.
Mm.
And it's been amazing to see how much you can push the envelope, and these guys know the quality that you put out based on what they're seeing. I spoke to an individual who does they sub out everything. They'll get a job and
Yeah.
they'll sub the whole thing out, and they can tell how good their subs are just by looking at their social media.
Oh, wow.
So the website used to be the portfolio. Now it's the social media and how you
Hmm.
interact with the customer. So we've been able to really zone in on that and push it. And another thing I want to stress is if you're a local business or a small business, you could be nationally known, state known, globally known through social media.
Mm,
We're a local business. We probably work in a 50-mile radius, but we have followers all over the world:
right.
England, France, Australia, China,
Mm,
Japan, and people that we interact with. So you're a local business that has a reputation across the country and across the entire earth, um, and which has
well,
been
and
huge
I
for us.
imagine those relationships are super important.
Right. And then when it starts to really evolve, the suppliers that you buy from, the manufacturers that you get the equipment from, they know who you are because the people take your stuff and go towards the manufacturer and say, "Hey, I saw this on this Instagram. I want
Mm,
this." And they're like, "Oh, American Pavement has that. Can I have it?" And you become an influencer in your industry based off of what's going on.
yeah. So the better you can get at this, the more layers of impact it has for you.
Yeah, and you
Uh,
definitely have to understand the algorithms behind
yeah.
what you're doing, because if you don't, you're kind of shooting in the wind.
So a couple of questions just from what you said. First of all, it sounds like you're saying that this year, as
Mhm.
we've walked through quarantine and all of this, social media has been more important for you than ever. Is that a fair statement?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so you've started gaining more business through that and more traction there.
Hmm.
You also mentioned algorithms a couple of times.
Yeah.
If people want to research that and figure out how to manage algorithms, like, do they have to be geniuses who come up with it on their own? How do you
No,
figure that
no, no.
out?
I mean, every social media site has them, and you could very easily type in Google, how does Instagram work, or what's the algorithm, and it used to be that you could post a hashtag, and whoever posted the most recent hashtag went to the top of the list, and then it just pushed everybody down. Now it seems to, like, if you're interested in certain things, those
Mhm.
things are what thrown at you.
Right.
And it's not so much likes anymore, it's more of engagement.
Mm.
So I know on Instagram, the more you get people commenting and going back and forth, the more your post stays on the explore page, and the
Yes.
more it gets pushed out to a broader audience. So you have to post engaging content that gets people to go back and forth with you. And the more comments and the more back and forth that you get, the more popular your post becomes.
So this isn't just like a live stream of you paving the highway, right?
Well, no, we
So
do that too. So
yeah, that's great.
it's a little bit of everything. And then also another big thing is consistency. People
Mhm.
say, "Oh, maybe you should post once a week." Like, we post every day, even sometimes multiple times a day, from different cell phones.
Okay.
So me and my brothers are all connected through the social media. So Instagram, we're all hooked up there, and we can all
Mm.
be posting at the same time, which gives you even more of an appearance.
So engagement, right,
Yes.
and
Yep.
consistency.
Correct. Those are two
Um,
huge things.
Not that it's bad to have professional quality all the time,
No.
but do you have to have it? Does it have to be professional to be engaging?
No, I mean, I think probably about 5% of our stuff that we put on there was professionally done. The rest is shot from an iPhone.
Okay.
And then we do a lot of story time, where we take, I'll be on one job, my brothers will be on other jobs, and everyone is posting what they're doing real time. And those get a lot of engagement. As you guys know, I think the Young Professionals Instagram has gotten a lot of engagement off of their stories on Instagram.
Yeah. And so, as you're making those posts, let's say there's someone listening right now who's saying, "Oh, either my small business, I would love to see more engagement
Mhm.
online." And so I hear consistency is a piece of that. I hear knowing the algorithms are a part of that. Content's a piece too, whether it's the owner of the
Absolutely.
business or it's someone who's working for the business who wants to help grow the business that they're working for.
Hmm.
And so in your world, are there some things about the type of content that you find people engage with most often? Like, what is it that really what is it about a post that you're like, "Oh, that grabbed a whole bunch of people's attention"?
You never know. I mean,
Yeah.
we'll spend, money on a professional video and not get the engagement that we get from just a video I shot in 15 seconds on the back of a truck. Like,
Yeah.
it's not, it's hit or miss. Things that go viral. If there was a recipe for viral videos, I mean, everyone would put out viral videos.
I
So
have several that should be viral. They're just not yet.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. That's why I think the consistency is so huge, because every once in a while
That's
you
great.
do have that video that goes, farther than it should, and the things that you don't think are gonna go, they go.
Yeah. So
Um,
keep putting good stuff out there.
yes, yeah,
Eventually
yeah,
something will stick.
yeah, and
And do you guys engage back with people who connect with you?
yeah, absolutely. That's huge for us, because you want to keep the follower as much as you want to gain the follower.
Mm,
And if people feel like that you're just a one-sided or a one-trick pony, where you're just pushing and you're not, giving them information that they're asking for, then they tend to disengage with you. Um, and there was one more point I wanted to make. Um, I really think it's important to have an idea of what you want your social media to look like.
mm,
You can't just post a lot of random stuff. Like, everyone has to come together and figure out a game plan, and you
yeah.
need to push that. For us, it's our quality, and our speed, and our cleanliness of our equipment. Those are the three things that we really focus on. So you need to pick a few things and go with those, and just be, honest with what you're posting. I think that's big
So,
as well.
so it's not just communicate a lot. There's a piece of this that's what is it that we want to communicate as we do
Right,
this.
right. You got to have a game plan. You got to
That's
have a
good.
game plan for
That's
sure.
good. Well, I appreciate you jumping on here and being willing to share a little bit about kind of your experience. I'll ask you a couple more questions before we get off of the social media side of things. I did not ask you if we could do this before, but uh, can if people want to check out your business's Instagram so that they can see an example of some of the posts we were talking about, where would they look for that?
You could find us it's at American Pavement.
At
Um,
American Pavement.
yeah, you could type that in Google, and all of our social medias will pop up. We're big on Instagram, and we're big on Facebook, and we do have a TikTok, which has been pretty popular with
Is
the
that
younger
full of
kids.
you doing TikTok dances? Because
No, we we thought about it, we tried,
yeah,
but they didn't go. So we didn't. We stick to what we know,
that's right.
And a
That's right.
video that you post on Instagram may not do as well as TikTok.
Okay.
So it's we crossed, the same
Cross
footage.
platforms.
Yeah, a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good. Okay. Well, I just kind of want to wrap this up by asking you, as you look at, we've had a period that we've walked through where businesses shifted and changed for a lot of people. We're looking at trying to regather.
Mhm.
Is there, when you think about it, is there a lesson you've learned or something you're grateful for now that you may not have been before in business? Is there something that you can look at that say, man, this was a hard time to walk through, but I'm glad that this piece of it happened.
You know, the first thing that comes to my mind is family. Um,
Yeah.
we are a family business. I work with my three brothers, my father, and my mom. And then we do have employees that have been with us for 25 plus years. As a 30-year-old, a 25-year-old employee, they're almost like family. They
That's
are
family.
family, you know.
Yeah.
And I think the one thing I'm very grateful for is the ability to have each other's backs. The guys, they show up for us and we show up for them. And I think they know that we're going to fight for every job that we can and give
Mhm.
them as many hours as we can, even through the worst times. And they're going to come every day and not be worried about what's going to happen. It sounds to me, of what I've heard from friends and family, that their jobs are up in the air. So they start hunting for jobs, and sometimes they leave a company before they know whether it's a yay or a nay. And maybe they should have stayed, but maybe they left. We're very grateful to retain all of our employees through this pandemic, and just have each other's backs as often as possible. That's been,
Mm.
looking through it, that's probably the one thing that I'm very grateful for.
Well, and I love that you mentioned that, because that idea of having each other's backs is something that I think a period like this we've seen, right? Like even in neighborhoods, as you walk in your neighborhood, people
Mm,
are talking to each other a
yeah.
little bit more and
Mhm.
finding out a little bit more about what's going on, which opens the door to have each other's backs and support each other.
Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
got a neighbor who's going to come help me cut a tree tomorrow. We may not have had that conversation to know about it beforehand, and yet we're interacting and having each other's backs in the midst of this. And my hope is that that's one of the changes that sticks.
Yeah,
That we can become more intentional about having each other's backs in our
mm,
community,
for
and
sure.
as young adults and young professionals, that this group can be intentional about having each other's backs. So that's huge. Thanks for sharing that, Josh. Can I pray for you before we head off?
Sure.
Absolutely. Well, God, I thank you for Josh and for his family, and for his business, and for the way that you've shown yourself as a provider in the midst of uncertainty during this time. I thank you for the lessons he has learned and is learning, and for his willing to share with us today, God. God, would you help him to enjoy his time with his family tonight, and help him, whether it's in his family or his friendships or his business, to honor you in all he does. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, sir. It's good to talk to you. Thanks for your time. And I will see you again soon. Thanks for your
Yes.
time here on the live stream tonight.
Enjoy seeing you. Thank
Bye.
you.